So I came on during the Shining period. My job at that time was to prepare the advertising, to buy the advertising in the New York market for Warner Brothers Pictures, and that was a big deal then, and some of the other marketing as well. And we would create ads. He was deeply involved. I remember being on the phone with him and talking about the distance between the quotes in the ad that was going to run in the New York Times. He wanted to move something up a quarter of an inch or something like that. He was very, very visual. And, you always felt like, you felt, well, okay, this is pretty cool. This guy is obviously interested in every detail, every aspect of how this movie is presented to the public. But you also felt, honestly, as you did with many artists at Warner Brothers, that's what made it a unique place. You felt like you were doing something in service of something pretty important. At least we told ourselves that anyway. You knew there was great work at hand.
Yes.
So.
And how would you characterize his work and the way his films were marketed under his direction compared to the other films that you handled? Was there a distinct Kubrickian kind of style that you observed?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was very spare, at least in its visual presentation. It was very spare, and not a lot of extraneous material. There was a singular image typically with his movies. You remember The Shining. You remember the title art, the very evocative title art on that film, and Full Metal Jacket, that iconic, the iconic helmet shot. There's always very, very simple, evocative looks, and he worked obviously with many people to achieve that, but I think it always sort of sprang forth from his thinking, and even that that attention to detail, which in something as simple as a print ad, was all about how it was going to be perceived and presented, and how he wanted it perceived and presented.
Yeah, I've heard stories that he would get all the newspapers. He'd get the New York Times or what have you, and he'd call and he'd say, why am I in London and I'm the one that notices that this ad is 1/8 of an inch off or something.
Yeah, I got calls like that. I would get calls like that. At home, because you had my home number, and you'd get calls about some things that weren't even your responsibility. I think it was on The Shining. He asked me to talk to the projectionist at the Cinema One theater. I think it was the Cinema One theater where The Shining was. He asked me to talk to the projectionist and get the throw, the distance between the projector and the screen. So of course I did. I think I went over there physically and I talked to the projectionist, and he gave me a number, and I'd call Stanley back, and so I talked to Jack over at Cinema One, whatever his name was, and it's X number of feet, and he'd say, yeah, that's right, and I never knew why, but he knew already what the throw was. Maybe he was concerned that the projectionist knew what the throw was. I don't know. But there were lots and lots of those kinds of things that happened over the years.